All right, so number 10 here for 11.3. 10 gives you a trapezoid, and they tell you something about this triangle. The area is 25, and they tell you that the median is 14. Well, there's some information built into that. If it's a median, these are midpoints, although I don't think I really use that. Let's see. Yeah, so a midpoint, or the median, I'm sorry. The median's 1/2 the sum of the bases. And so my first thing I had to do was find the value of PQ, the other base. And so I wrote this formula. I knew the value of B2, it's 18, and I knew the value of the median. And so it was 14. I just, wrote down my equation. Find the equation that you know, fill in the values, solve for the unknown. Multiply both sides by 2. That would make this 28, subtract 18. B1 is 10, which means that PQ is 10. So that was the first one. Then B, it was kind of confusing the way they asked it. Basically, they wanted you to find the height of this triangle to PQ, like the height to base PQ of this triangle. It's confusing because the height here is actually outside of the triangle. And so you have to extend PQ. All I did was I just took this triangle and kind of like drew it here. You have to extend PQ, and then here, there you go, you have the height. Well, they gave us information about the area of the triangle. Usually you should be wondering, why did they give me this piece of information? How am I going to use it? Well, I know that the area of that triangle is 25. I also know the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. Yeah, and so if the area is 25, I just substitute 25 for the area. And now I know, well, let's see, what do I know? I know the base. I'm trying to find the height. Multiply both sides by 2. I filled in the value for the base here. Solve for h. H is 5. So the height of this triangle is 5. Well, the next question, they asked, hey, what's the height of the trapezoid? Well, if the height of this triangle here that I found, if the height of that is 5, well, then the height of the trapezoid would also be 5 because, if you extend this line PQ and that's a right angle, and the height here would be a right angle, that means you have like a rectangle here. So the opposite sides are congruent. And so the height of the trapezoid is also 5. Lastly, D, they wanted you to find the area of the trapezoid, and I think we had all the information we needed by this point. And so the area is just 1/2. I mean, you could have used the median. That was probably the easier thing to do, but 1/2 the sum of the bases. So I added the bases, took half of it. It's 14. The height is 5. The area is 70. Next, solution to 17. Hopefully this doesn't get too confusing. Here, don't look at any of that. There we go. Let's just look above here. So here's 17. Here's the stuff that was given. They gave me angle measures here. And so that's kind of a clue to me that I'm gonna have to do something with the angle measures. And 30 is an interesting angle measure because it makes a 30, 60, 90 if you drop an altitude down. So I dropped an altitude down, and now I have this 30, 60, 90. And they gave me that this side was 12, which means the side across from the 90 is 12. The side across from the 90 is 2x for a 30, 60, 90. So I solve for x. X is 6. Which means the side across from the 30 is 6. I might use that information. And it means that the side across from the 60 is 6√3. Because, x was 6 and this was, the side across 60 is x√3. Anyways, I'm asking myself, where am I heading with this? Well, I need to find the area. And the area is median times height. But I don't think I'll be able to find the median. They didn't really give me information about a midpoint or anything like that. Area is also 1/2 the sum of the bases times the height. So they gave me one of the bases. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, if I find this other base here, then I should be able to do it because I already found the height. The height is 6. And so now I just need to find this value of the base. And so if this angle is 120, so I extended this line here. If this is 120, then this would be 60, right? And so I dropped down another altitude. And so if that's 6, this altitude is going to be 6, or the height here is going to be 6. And so since it's an altitude, this little triangle that I kind of formed is a right triangle. And since that's 60, this is a 30, 60, 90. And so the reason why I'm trying to find this little piece here is because I know that if this is 5 root 3, then I can find the value of this piece by subtracting whatever this is from 5 root 3. See, I'm trying to find this total length here because this is the other base. I found this piece already, and now I need this piece. And so 30, 60, 90, I know that this is 6, so across from the 60 is x root 3, which means that x is 6 over root 3. Which means that this little piece here is actually 5 root 3 minus this piece, which was 6 over root 3. And so I set out to try and find B1. And so I meant B2, this bottom here. And so B2 is just, it's just this little section, 5 root 3 minus 6 root 3, plus this little section, right? That's the total of B2 here. And so I rationalized my denominator here. This would end up being what, 2 root 3? I subtracted 2 root 3 from 6 root 3. Got 4 root 3. Combine these, they're like terms. 9 root 3. That's what B2 is. And so I plugged all of that information now into my formula. Let's see, I took half of 6, which is 3, and then I added these guys, 14 root 3. 3 times 14 is 42. So your answer for the area of that trapezoid, 42 times root 3. All right, moving along. Yeah, this one here was pretty challenging. 18. Let's go ahead and get rid of all that other stuff. 18. So they asked you to find the formula for PQ. And so anytime sometimes the questions will ask you to find a formula. What they mean is, hey, I'm not going to give you any values. You don't need to find any values, but you need to use the variables that you have here, like B2, B1, the variables that you have, and you need to come up with some formula using like some other formula that you already know. And so they gave me information. They gave me this is a trapezoid. And so for me, off to the side, I'm trying to write down, hey, what kind of equations do I know for this trapezoid? I know I could find the area. I know that the median is this equation. And so if I can write down some equations, then I can try and figure out a relationship for PQ based off these equations or formulas that I already know. And so basically PQ is part of the median, right? And which means that it's related to my median. So I used this formula for my median to try and figure out how to solve for PQ in terms of my median. And so PQ is just my median, right? The length of my median minus these two pieces, is it not? That's what PQ is. And so I started by writing a formula for PQ. Well, it's the median minus XP plus QY, these little pieces here. And so I think it's easier to see, like I took this triangle out and I took this overlapping triangle out and I drew them here. So here's XP, right? I need to figure out a way to write XP in terms of the stuff that I know. Like, M is 1/2 B1 plus B2. And so I need to figure out a way to write XP in terms of B1 or B2. Well, if I take this triangle out, they gave me that P is a midpoint and X is a midpoint. Well, by the midline theorem, right, they gave you that little hint, like you have to read it in the book. But anyways, by the midline theorem, XP is going to be half the value of B2 here, right? So XP is half the value of B2. Well, that's going to be the same for QY here, because Y is a midpoint, because Q is a midpoint. It's half the value of B2 or AB, which means that both XP, this little piece here, and QY, this other piece, they're both 1/2 B2. And so like I took my formula that I was going to start with here. PQ equals the median minus XP plus QY. Now I know what XP and QY equal. And I kind of just said by substitution off to the side here, I just said let both of them be XP because I know they're the same value. And then I combine these, that would be 2 times XP, right? 2 times, well, what is XP? XP is 1/2 B2. And so 2 times 1/2, this is just minus B2, right? So I also replaced median with this formula here, 1/2 B1 plus B2. And then I needed to combine these. I just put this in a different form. It was more palatable, I guess, to combine the fractions that way. Whoop. And so I needed to combine these. So I found a common denominator for B2, right? Now I can subtract these. And so when I subtract, I'm subtracting 2 times B2 from B2, which makes it B1 just minus B2 over 2. So there's a formula for PQ. Hope that makes sense. Thanks for asking. Goodbye.